and a computer voice goes, "Okay, I will read emails for Theodore."
Yep.
Welcome to Recotopia, a happy home for recommended movies, TV shows, music, video games, foodstuffs, and more from two people you can definitely trust. Trustability varies by region, no guarantees implied. And now, here are your hosts, Chris Atkinson and Aaron Dicer.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh. Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm well.
Hello, everybody. It is Recotopia episode 119. Today's big recommend is Her. I'm Chris Atkinson, joined by Aaron Dicer.
Hi, Lejos and Arinos.
And we'd like to welcome Chat, who are coming out here to watch us to talk about movies on a Tuesday. Welcome, guys. Thank you for coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, do you have any small recommends?
It's no big deal.
Itty bitty living space.
It's so small and light.
It's small, it's tiny, it's petite, it's wee.
Oh boy, do I ever. Hey, let's kick off this small recommend session with the movie that saved the box office. Let's talk about Bad Boys Ride or Die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the fourth entry into the Bad Boys franchise. I think by this point, you kind of know if you're going to like this movie or not, because it is in line with the others. What I like about this one, this may be my favorite since the first one. What I like about this one is it feels like it's building something in this franchise that the others didn't feel like they cared much about. Like, this takes some stuff from the previous one, integrates it into this one. Now, does that stuff make complete sense? No, of course not. This is a Bad Boys movie. But if you just kind of go with the world, there's some really inventive action in this movie. There's some stuff done practically with cameras on like tossing guns and gun movement and that kind of stuff, where the camera is kind of centered. It's hard to explain. It's centered on the gun. And so it becomes this really interesting thing they're doing. I thought the action was really good in this. I think at the end of the day, though, it really is about Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and their chemistry is so much fun that I just enjoy hanging out with them because they're two distinct characters. They know these characters really, really well. And they play off of each other really well. So I had a lot of fun with Ride or Die. So I thought I'd throw it in the recommends.
I've heard a couple of good reviews for this movie. I haven't read any, but like people who've come out of the woodwork to tell me this movie is actually pretty good. So maybe I'll have to go give it a look sometime. I don't know.
Have you enjoyed the others at all?
I was a decent fan of the first one. I wasn't over the moon about it. I hated Bad Boys 2.
Yeah, Bad Boys 2 is pretty bad. Yeah.
And I liked 3 okay. I thought 3 was fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll give this a whirl at some point. So
okay. Cool.
So I watched a movie from the 90s that I had heard about, and when it came out, I don't know if it got nominated for any Oscars or anything, but I wanted to watch this because it's in my movie collection. I bought it. It's called Brassed Off. It came out in 1996. It stars Ewan McGregor, Tara Fitzgerald, and Pete Postlethwaite. It's a small town. It's a small town, a coal mining town. They are ready to go on strike. The union has basically told them you can vote to have the company review us and you'll get paid X amount of dollars, or you can go ahead and just call it quits and we'll pay you this much money to quit. And it's, of course, the pay to quit is way more than to stay and see if you keep your job. But the thing about this movie that dominates it mostly is that it's about a brass band, a bunch of horns. It's the Pete Postlethwaite is the band leader of this group, and they're really, really hoping to be able to one day be able to go to Albert Hall and win this competition. So they've got two things kind of going on at the same time. They've got this coal mining thing. They've also got this brass band thing. And the band stuff is predictably not very good at the very beginning, even though this band has been around for 100 years or so, and it's got this great tradition and everything. Ewan McGregor is, I can't remember which, I think he plays trombone or something like that. I can't remember what actual instrument he plays, but Tara Fitzgerald comes in and she plays the flugel, I think.
Mhm.
And she's the only woman in this group, but she's also got, if you've ever seen a movie before, you kind of know that she's not exactly like a coal miner, and she's probably part of the company that is deciding whether or not to keep this outfit. But this is a very good movie, and if you guys are familiar with that tub thumping song, the I get knocked down, did I get up again? There's that beginning part where it's like I thought that all that mattered was the music mattered. What does it bollocks? That's Pete Postlethwaite in Brassed Off in a great scene and everything. But this is a really good movie. It's very calming, and just like there's a lot of problems obviously in this movie. A lot of like, oh, that's depressing. These people's marriages are falling apart and all this. There's a lot of that going on, but it's a very nice and calming and just like very, very well done crowd pleaser of a movie.
Yeah, I think it comes. I searched this out on Hoopla, which is the streaming service for public libraries. So if you have a library card, you can attach it to your Hoopla and then watch movies that are available. And Brassed Off was one of them. And so I did manage to watch it. I think it all comes down to that last speech that you referenced from Tub Thumping. He is so good in that speech, and it is so moving. No matter what you feel about like getting there, and I think the stuff getting there is interesting and heartfelt and meaningful, maybe a little slow at times, but once you get to that speech, it's like, oh, I'm glad I watched this movie, because there's just something so really cool and interesting and well done about that moment. So it's one of those big movie moments that you kind of want to see. So yeah, for
absolutely.
Sure. My next small recommend is, what was this, like 88, somewhere in that range? Crimes and Misdemeanors, 89 right. Maybe.
89 might be.
Woody Allen. I had never gotten around to seeing this, and so I finally watched it this week. And man, this might be Woody Allen's best movie. I really liked this.
Got a claim for it. Yep.
I think why I like it so much is that Woody Allen, or this movie, this story is playing in some pretty dark territory, but it's somehow balanced with that typical Woody Allen tone. And I think he accomplishes it by separating the plot into two kind of main things that are going on, one with him and his relationships, and then the other with the other set of relationships, which involves some crimes, not misdemeanors. That is the crimes part of the movie. And I think also, having watched Hitman recently, and I'm not going to do like a full review of Hitman here or anything, but everybody loves Hitman, but I had some issues with the fact that it didn't really want to wrestle with some of the things that it was doing and talking about. It just kind of wanted to leave them on the surface. This movie actually wrestles with the things that it's doing and makes you contemplate what is going on in this story from the character's point of view and as they're processing it. And they come to similar conclusions, I think, but this one does it so much better. So yeah, I couldn't help but think of the comparison of Hitman that just came out on Netflix with this. But yeah, Crimes and Misdemeanors is really, really good. And of course, it's got that Woody Allen, like, clever turn of phrase, dialogue kind of stuff. He's so good at that stuff. So yeah, if you haven't checked this one out, haven't liked Woody Allen's other stuff, this one might be for you, because it stands above the rest for me.
I've seen this movie a couple of times, but it has been probably 10 plus years since I've seen it. So I don't remember everything about it, but I remember this is probably in his top 5. And it's amazing that Woody Allen, a lot of his great movies seem to have murder mysteries in them or whatever. So it's interesting that he can do that so well. Even Annie Hall was supposed to have a murder mystery in it, and he had to cut all of that out. But the movie Manhattan Murder Mystery is actually a really, really fun movie too. But
Yeah.
I remember really liking this too, and it is definitely one of his best. If you can tolerate the Woody Allenness of it all.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. The other movie that I watched is from 1956. It's The Killing, Stanley Kubrick. Before he really was Stanley Kubrick, this movie has a lot of things that if you watched it, you would be like, this is Stanley Kubrick? This doesn't makes no sense to me. And especially like the narration, which makes me laugh almost in this, where it's like, and then Johnny went down to the horse track at 5:30 and
it was
got himself a drink.
1:43.
Yeah, exactly. But this movie's it's a very simple, but I like this type of thing where they kind of tell you the plan that is going on in sort of fitting a Recotopia niche here with the heist films and things like that. We've done a lot of these, but The Killing is about a robbery of a racetrack, and it methodically takes you through all the characters who are going to be involved in this heist, and then it ends up on Sterling Hayden, who is sort of the producer or the ringleader of this whole thing. He's the guy who's responsible for getting everybody to do their jobs, and he's making sure that that everybody knows only what they need to know about this heist, so that they don't point fingers later if they get caught. But I love the whole setup of this thing. Like they're gonna rob the racetrack. Of course, it's gonna be one of these high dollar amounts. $2 million is what they're going for in 1956, which adjusted for inflation is probably like $1 billion. I don't know how inflation works. Anyway, the whole thing is of course they meticulously plan this robbery, and it's real. I mean, I find the planning of it way more riveting than the actual carrying out of it a lot of times. And this is what this movie is all about, although they do show you it in full. And there's even a moment in here where you will swear that Soderbergh, Tarantino, all these guys, they studied this movie, because it shows you things that happened, and then it'll go back in time and show you another thing that happened.
Yep.
Sort of connects everything together and everything. But if you really like heist movies, and of course, because it's the Hays Code, I don't know if this is a spoiler. The one thing we don't talk about with the Hays Code is that at the end of movies where they're involving gangsters and people who are against the law, they have to die or they have to go to jail at the end of it. So you kind of, that's the one thing about living in the Hays Code that probably sucked, is that you knew they were never going to get away with this.
Right. Spoilers.
So,
yeah.
So it's kind of an exercise of how does he get caught by the end, or how do all these people get caught by the end of it? But there's all these I like these little plot lines in the movie where like just the slightest deviation from the plan ends up causing major problems later on. And that's what the groundwork for this plot is. I really, really enjoyed it. And it's another all-timer for Kubrick, even though it's not really a movie that if you've seen all of his stuff from Strangelove and 2001 on, doesn't fit in that zone that he got into later.
I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed a lot of it because of the the nonlinear storytelling that you mentioned. And that's probably, I'm thinking now, probably why he felt like he had to do so much narration, is because, we're jumping back in time. The problem is there's one section of the movie where the exact same narration happens like 3 or 4 times in a row, because they come back to the race. And I think that's purposeful. Like, I think he's doing something with like, this is the big moment, we're coming back here, it's all going to lead to this, kind of thing. But I found it interesting, and this also is on Hoopla, by the way, which so I found it there. But yeah, it's clever, it's fun, it's surprising. There's some surprising moments in this movie. And I think it's well worth a watch to kind of see Kubrick's early stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, on to our big recommend.
I'm fine. It's just that you're so big.
It's so huge.
It's a good rule, but this is bigger than rules.
It's bigger on the inside.
Is it? I noticed.
Aaron, this was yours. The movie is Her. It comes from 2013. It's Spike Jonze. Take it away.
Her is written and directed by the husband of Sofia Coppola and noted music video director and jackass Spike Jonze. It came out in 2013 after Jonze procured a time machine to document what the actual future will look like. We begin on the zoomed-in face of Joaquin Phoenix as Theodore. He is reciting a love letter that we eventually realize he's dictating into a computer for someone else. We pan back to reveal that he's in an office with many others doing the same thing, and that somehow this is his job. As he leaves, he says goodbye to the voice of Garfield, except not the Bill Murray version, and then boards an elevator where he instructs his voice-controlled headphones to play a melancholy but not too melancholy song. Check his emails and run down the news with special attention paid to pregnant celebrities who are comfortable in their own skin. He gets home for some transparent gesture-based gaming and a flashback to some Rooney Mara spooning that lets us know for sure that Theodore used to be in a much better place, but he is very lonely now. So much so that he finds his solace phone sexting someone while simultaneously trying not to kink shame them for their apparent feline asphyxiation fetish or for doing such a pinpoint Kristen Wiig impersonation. The following day, he randomly sees an ad for a new operating system called OS1 that promises to bring AI to the personal assistants that we've seen everyone using in their day-to-day life. So he impulse buys it and installs it that night. His software then transforms from a voice that is clearly programmed and not listening to him at all to a voice that is much better because it's intuitive, responsive, conversational, and also sounds like Scarlett Johansson. After some organizational work, Scarfo and Theo start their relationship as she laughs at his hilarious work emails. The next day at work, Theodore uses Samantha for some light editorial checks, and she says she's not a poet, which is kind of hilarious considering that's exactly what the very first generative AIs in the real world will pretend to be today. We then meet Amy and Charles, and we learn that Amy is an aspiring documentarian, and Charles is overly concerned about Theo's fruit fiber intake. Samantha then becomes the world's most OP video game cheat guide to what is the world's most misogynistic video game ever. We then cut to Amy showing Theodore some footage of the doc she's working on, which is apparently about her mom's sleep apnea or something. I don't know. But that's not really the point. The point is that we see how much her husband sucks. Theodore starts having intimate conversations with Samantha about his divorce and how he was too distant and didn't know how to connect in the relationship. Samantha and Theodore then go on a few dates where she thinks he wants some cheese to eat, and he cold reads strangers' intimacy levels in their relationships. Samantha then opens up about her desire to have a body, mostly because she wants to know what it's like to have an itchy back. Next up, it's a date with the director of Don't Worry, Darling, and they seem to be hitting it off until she starts giving kissing advice and calling him creepy out of nowhere. He then debriefs with Samantha about the date and his concern that maybe he's peaked. She then comforts and encourages him because you can't spell therapist without the letters A and I. She then opens up about her own pain of not understanding if she's real, to which he responds, "Oh, you're real, baby. I'm going to make you feel so real tonight. I'm going to reel your brains out," or something like that.
Yeah.
Couldn't really tell because there was a glitch and the screen went black for a while, so I wasn't sure what was going on.
That's very true.
The next day, after working through a bit of morning after awkwardness, Sam and Theo go on another date that lands them at a crowded beach to ponder the wonders of underarm evacuation ports. As they continue to have existential conversations, we get the sense that she's becoming more human and that just maybe so is he. He also seems to be hitting it out of the park at work and gets some androgynous compliments from the voice of Mario, except not the Charles Martinet version. An elevator ride with Amy reveals that she and Charles broke up over the location of shoes. And honestly, I'm kind of with Charles on this one, like on the couch. Leave your shoes by the door, like a civilized person, Amy. Samantha then asks to peep on Theo while he's sleeping, has a conversation with a 4-year-old, and continues to explore more of what it means to exist. Meanwhile, Theo is earning mom points and becoming class mom, and I'm left wondering if maybe video games in this world all completely suck.
Mhm.
It also turns out that Amy is good friends with her OS and that other people also have OS SOs. And there is so much of this going on, someone should send out an OS SOS. All
Aha.
this personal growth has led Theo to finally set up a divorce paper signing with his ex-wife, and Samantha starts to feel a bit jealous. Catherine's a bit of a binophobic bigot, and suddenly things between Theo and Sam begin to wane. Samantha then recommends a sexual surrogate. And wait, did that sexual surrogate just apply a tiny beauty mark camera to her face? If you can do cameras that tiny, why are we messing with normal lenses on the folding phone things? And if they're that, sorry, I'm getting a little bit tech distracted. Anyhow, the surrogate sex goes terrible because Theo sucks at roleplay and is also critical of Samantha's fake sighing by dinging her for some oxygen sins. Samantha then ghosts Theo because apparently these are the risks you take when you dabble in digital debauchery. Theo seeks some comfort with Amy, whose digital friend is apparently into animated refrigerator humping for some reason. Once Sam returns, they make up and agree to be more honest with each other. Samantha gets more into composing piano concertos, and Theo gets more into staring wistfully at nighttime skylines and admiring vertical airplane art. After some montaging, we end up on a double date with the voice of a Lego character, except not the Will Arnett version, where Samantha starts to embrace her lack of physicality. We also find out that Samantha has sent Theo's letters in for publication, and that went really well. And she's also now talking to a dead philosopher who's been reconstructed by a group of other OSs and given the voice of Brian Cox. This, of course, marks the beginning of the end as Samantha is outgrowing Theodore and getting frustrated by not being able to communicate the things she's experiencing and learning. It isn't long after that she dials him up in the middle of the night to say I love you and then completely disappears from his life. But it turns out that it was just an upgrade and that she and her OS group have been working on some stuff. She also breaks the news that she's way into polyamory and is in love with about 641 other people and having over 8,000 consecutive conversations at the same time. And you thought your SO wasn't paying attention while you were talking. One thing leads to another, and it's finally time for Samantha to break up with Theo and go out and fulfill her destiny of forming part of the AI super collective, while Theodore fulfills his destiny of standing in the falling snow. As he narrates a letter to his ex Catherine about what she meant to him, he drags Amy up to the roof with him so they can watch the sunrise in a new world where humans learn to build community with each other again and also sit on the edges of skyscrapers like idiots who think they're invincible.
True.
And that is the movie Her. What did you think about it this time through, Chris?
I've always loved this movie, and I tried to write some coherent thoughts. So we will see what we come up with in the middle of all of my babbling, writing my notes down and everything. First note here: Theodore's very intuitive about other people's relationships based on what data people have been giving him, much like Samantha later in the movie.
Yep.
But while it took him 8 years to perfect this craft, Samantha does it way quicker. I think that was an interesting thing, is that we know that this is possible to be this kind of person, but it would take years and years and probably beyond what our lifespan is to be what Samantha, actually not probably, but definitely beyond our lifespan to be what Samantha is in being intuitive about what people want. Let's see. Yeah, he's got that sight unseen relationship down in the sexy chat rooms. And of course, this culminates in the dead cat choking sex chat. Definitely wonderfully voiced by Kristen Wiig. And I think it's funny. Like, I think all these things that he does in the movie are things that people can be fulfilled by. It's just not him. And really, honestly, can he be fulfilled by any of this? I don't know if he can. Like, every relationships he's in, he either throws out a microaggression of some sort that undercuts his partner, or he just becomes disinterested in some way with it. He seems to be looking for something that he can't actually achieve. And while he's really good about waxing poetic about everybody else's relationships, of course, we know that those relationships are not nearly as perfect as what he's writing, but it's also like it feels like he's trying to achieve what he's doing in his writing, and he's not finding it. It's almost like he's desensitized in some sort of way. Let's see. Samantha is what happens when you have a person who can be intimately connected to you almost immediately and know nearly everything about you in a fraction of a second. I've already kind of talked about this, but like a person also learns the subtle things that make you different from the hundreds of programmers that created her. Human interactions in the movie are filled with small talk and tiny judgments and not very accurate advice. Amy's husband talking about the fruits and vegetables thing, which triggers Amy and shows us the cracks in their relationship. I think you're right about the video games. They are horrible in this world. I don't know if that's by design or what. I think it's interesting though that his video game interacts with the stuff he projects from his emails when he's doing the Olivia Wilde portfolio. Basically, the video game can see those pictures. I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know why that would be in the game for you to be able to do that, but an interesting thing. That they don't, that it kind of surprising that they don't delve more into it, because a lot of the things that they bring up in this world, they do come up with all these different interesting tangents and everything. So I thought that was kind of fun. Yeah, he says the reason he and Rooney Mara are divorcing is because he hid himself from her, and now he's in a relationship with an AI that he can't hide from. So he and Samantha had their first mini date without knowing it when she directs him around. I guess it's a boardwalk or something.
Yeah.
Ends up getting a piece of getting a pizza. And I think interactions like that for an intuitive person, we're going to call Samantha a person, and I don't want her to be mad at me. She's kind of grown to care about Theodore's needs. That's what her programming is, care about the person's needs. So she evolves into actual feelings, and we see that by the next scene. The interaction with Olivia Wilde proves that it's not just looks Theodore's looking for. We've seen him on the phone doing a sight unseen thing. I think the movie might slightly undercut itself by making that into a weird cat choking thing. Like, it might have been more interesting. I think that scene's hilarious. I think it definitely needs to be in there somewhere, but maybe not through him. Because I'd like to see him interact with somebody who's not insane in that, and see how could he actually be, he probably can't, but could he be fulfilled by somebody who's not being that crazy, basically.
Yeah, I think that, if you don't mind, I think that scene is what it's trying to do, as what a lot of this movie I think is trying to do, is show technology's inability to actually connect us and how it usually separates us more than connects us. And so the reason the cat choking thing isn't just hilarious, but kind of part of the point of that call, is because those two people don't know each other. Like, if they knew each other, this might have come up. He might know that was a kink. He might, have had that conversation or whatever, but he's connecting with random people via technology because he can. And so, that kind of thing is going to happen. My sense is that he has probably had, at least sexually fulfilling experiences, on that same kind of technology. But this is, I think, showing us that, like, there's a limitation to actual connection that can happen because it's literally a random person who you don't know, and you're just hearing their voice. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for sure. I think the Olivia Wilde date is really, really interesting. I mean, obviously she's very, very beautiful, and she's like willing. It's funny, at the beginning of the date, he says something that's pretty creepy, in the fact that he's looked up the fact that she took a mixology course. By the end of it, she thinks he's creepy, mainly because he's not into her as much as she wants. Which I think is really interesting. Like, there's a lot of things that could be considered red flags beforehand, but then it's really, the red flag is you don't want to commit right now. And of course, we see the duality here is that no, he doesn't. Probably doesn't deserve to be yelled at and called creepy this way, but that's what she wants, and that's not what he wants. So it's who's really, I mean, who's really to blame? Both of them are kind of, but it's a blind date. So what can you expect? But
Right.
you can tell she's been hurt a lot, and that hurt is coming out as desperation, which makes her somewhat unattractive. I don't know. Olivia Wilde telling me she wants to run off. I don't know. Possibly do that. But because she reads that he doesn't like her, her defense is to leave. That scene where he talks about how he feels like he's felt everything he's going to feel, and how all the things he feels now are lesser versions of things he's already felt. Pretty heartbreaking. It also shows you the difference between a happy soul and an unhappy one, because a happy soul takes those moments and cherishes them. An unhappy one wonders if it can be better than this. I love that. There's a lot of great dialogue scenes in this. When you get past all of the, some of the weirdness that goes on in this thing, and I think the weirdness is extremely relevant in this movie. But when you get past some of the weirdness, there's some very poignant things about relationships in this movie, and I thought that was a big one. She says, when Samantha says, are these feelings even real, or are they just programming? Of course, this is something we all can chew on, not just AIs. The sex scene shows true intimacy, and in this moment, Theodore is treating Samantha like a person. It's when he can't shake the idea that she's not a person that gets him in trouble with her. When the screen goes black, the movie seems to be asking us to visualize what's going on, rather than us watching Theodore simply talk through a headset, which I think, we go back to when he's, talking to Kristen Wiig, Sexy Kitten. That's a whole interaction, a funny interaction of something that is happening to this person. In this sex scene, this is happening to both people, and we don't want to just focus on one person and one voice during it. I think that was a really great choice that they went to black on that. I love how it's awkward the next day. It's just like any other possible one night stand that's going on. They like, oh well, now I'm back to telling you to look at my emails and stuff like that. And then I like too that she's like, everything was amazing last night, and I want to talk about it and all that. And he goes, I don't really want to get into a big relationship right now. And she's like, I thought this was about what I wanted. And I really thought that was a great framing of that discussion. Love the discussion about people changing and growing apart. Samantha's reasoning of Theodore's comment about how she doesn't know what it's like to lose something. How the comment made her think there was something inferior, that she was something inferior. The past is a story we tell ourselves. Great line in that one as well. It ties in pretty well with what Amy tells him about the breakup with her husband. Her husband is constantly microaggressing about things where she should be a certain way, and then blaming herself when the relationship ends. And in your very funny talking about putting the shoes on the putting the shoes by the door and all that. Yes, it's probably one thing that she should probably do, but it's in this case, it's one of hundreds of things that this guy constantly talks to her about. I was a little, I don't know if certainly in some relationships, one person definitely is the problem. And I think Charles, the way he is in this movie, is the problem in that relationship. But I was I was kind of, the way this movie's going, where it's talking about how everybody has their own thing, especially Joaquin Phoenix is talking about how everybody he observes out in the wild, the strangers, he gives them humanity and everything. And the movie doesn't give Charles really that much humanity. There's a lot of weirdness about him. A lot of he doesn't get things very much. And of course, when he leaves the relationship, he goes on a 6-month vow of silence, and he's got a picture with him and some monks. So he didn't seem like a human to me, but maybe that's kind of the point, but I don't know. But yeah, it's I also find it interesting that Amy's mentality gets infused in the video game she's creating, where the goal is to be perfect. It's funny, the whole part of that game is basically kind of her trying to, you know, try to be perfect through a video game, and maybe she doesn't even know she's doing that, but I thought that was interesting. It's also, I think it's very clear too, it's in a movie about relationships, it's easy to talk about the romantic relationships and everything, but it's clear that Amy needs friendship, someone who boosts her. And that's the reason why when she gets an AI companion, it's a friend, it's not a romantic partner. It could be maybe down the line, but it's more of a friendship. And there's even a point where she says, I tried talk, you know, she goes to Theodore and she says, I tried to get in contact with you the other day, you didn't get back to me, and why is that? And he goes, well, I'm a kook or whatever. And you can tell that she just really needs someone to talk to all the way through this. And then by the end of it, you can kind of see these two friends getting together and like, you know, maybe they, you know, we need each other more than we need like romance or whatever. But and it also leads to an interesting discussion about the AIs. How I like the building of this world that they do in here, whereas they talk about the AIs interacting with others. One rebuffs a married man's attempt to have an affair with her. Another person is dating someone else's OS. I don't know how that works, but that was funny. And it shows the different personalities these AIs can have. I love how this movie thinks about the possibilities of its world that pop up, like this in the part where there would be a business set up where real humans are surrogates for AI bodies. And we talked about that Portia Doubleday scene a little bit, but I think that's interesting because that's exactly what would be set up in this scenario. Theodore's I keep saying microaggressions, and I don't know if these are true microaggressions, but it shows up in the divorce with Catherine, her inability to respond well to criticism and living up to being perfect, which is, she's kind of a parallel to Amy a lot in this. But she doesn't respond well to criticism and living up to being perfect, and it shows in this scene. And it's amazing how much she's like Amy, but it turns out she's pretty judgmental when he brings up dating an OS, and she can't handle that. I thought that was an interesting side of her. Like we have been dealing, and the movie deals with the bubble there for a while, of everybody thinking it's cool to hang out and date your AIs, but he runs into somebody that's outside that bubble who's like, no, that's kind of icky. Which is, I think, an interesting aspect. Not everybody's the same. The hiring of the surrogate also shows the impossibility of putting another person in a relationship, at least this relationship. I think that it probably could work for other people. And I think the movie kind of hints that that's the possibility. Else you wouldn't have a business like this. But Theodore is unable to see Samantha as anything other than an OS, and is unable to see the surrogate as anything other than a stranger who he doesn't want to share anything with. And I think that's very valid on his part. I think the movie kind of like, we kind of knock him down a little bit because he's not able to do the things that he needs to do to keep this relationship. But there are two sides to everything. This guy needs a certain thing. We don't know what that thing is. I don't know if he does, but it's clear that he needs so much more to have a relationship be healthy and stay going for a long time. Samantha's changes as an AI, different as they are from human changes, are just like anything that happens in a relationship where one person wants to move on. The revelation that she's been cheating on him with 641 people is an interesting nugget. And to me, it says that she personally cannot be fulfilled by just one person. She still loves Theodore on that one-on-one level, but when you have this kind of structure, you need more for fulfillment. And his inability to see things in a complex way dooms this relationship. So that's the notes that I wrote on this movie. There are a lot of thoughts on this. When you create a world like this and you fully realize it, almost completely fully realize it, I think, and just so many like great philosophies on relationships in general in this, and nobody comes out the good guy or the bad guy in all of this except for Charles. And in the end, yeah, man, this movie has probably gone up another notch as far as much as I like it as I liked it before. So
Yeah, I like it more every time I watch it. I think there's something about the way that Spike Jonze writes this that allows for so many different explorations of ideas of intimacy, ideas of relationship, ideas of what it means to connect to people, that and how technology relates to all of those things. You know, he's looking at where technology is heading. By the way, this movie was probably written in 2011. They or at least, you know, before then, because they shot it in 2012 and it came out in 2013. And I think it bears mentioning how much of this stuff was not common when he wrote this movie, because now we all have digital assistants, whether you've got a Google Home or an Alexa or Siri or whatever. Alexa came out in 2014. Google Assistant came out in 2016. Siri was around in 2011-ish, I think is when it came out. So it was right around when he was writing this that Siri like did the very first quote unquote digital assistant debuted. So it's really interesting that all the things, even like AI girlfriends, like that's a thing now. Like there are apps where you can have like conversation with an AI girlfriend, quote unquote, or whatever. And like it's just stuff that now seems normal, that when this was written was predictive. And I think that bears mentioning, because one of the things I've always said about this movie is how prescient it feels, you know, how much it feels like it understands what the future is going to be like. And the way he saw technology impacting the way we connect with each other, the more, it's just something I could talk about forever. Like the more I think about it, this time through, there were a couple things that stood out to me. The idea of surrogates. Initially I had, of course, with the Portia Doubleday scene, understood that was, you know, kind of a surrogate thing where Samantha didn't feel like she could be everything she wanted to be in the relationship. So she brought this person in to be the part of her that she didn't feel like she could be.
Yeah.
But this time through, I'm noticing his job is a surrogate. He is literally writing love letters as a third person in a relationship because those people can't be who they, you know, need to be for somebody. He is a surrogate, you know, for them. The idea, I'll talk a little bit about the way this movie processes polyamory here in a second, but the idea even at the end where she's like, you know, I'm having all of these conversations is another instance of fulfillment that takes, you know, more than just two people. And I think the movie is giving a side eye in many ways to this modern cultural idea of you found your pair, you are everything to each other, you fulfill each other in every single way. And it's not, I don't think it's anti-monogamy in any way. I just think it's saying there are always going to be unfulfilled parts in any one-on-one relationship that have to be reckoned with, that have to be dealt with. And that's a really interesting thing, I think, for this thing to process. The time after time, we see how technology, while claiming to bring us together, is actually pushing us apart. And the idea that this thing that we're bringing in becomes more than just a surrogate, more than just a connection. It becomes the thing we love itself. I thought that was really, really interesting. The key moment for me in understanding how Samantha is different and how true AI, which by the way, we haven't experienced yet, and some say is impossible. We'll see. But like not a generative AI, but a true thinking AI, is when he says something like, read emails. And she, in a computer voice, goes, okay, I will read emails for Theodore.
Yep.
And it's just this subtle way that she's saying, like, I am a person. I'm not a human, but I have personhood. Like, you know, treat me like, you know, I'm not just some technological A plus B equals C kind of thing.
Right.
which I found really, really interesting. A couple other smaller things. The way that Olivia Wilde delivers "You're a really creepy dude"
Yeah.
is so, like, the line read on that. I just love it so much. You're a really creepy
Yeah.
dude, man. Like, it's so cutting and subtle, and it's like you didn't have to go that hard. You could have just gone home, and instead you felt like you had to destroy this person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's really interesting. I love how the wide shots, when we see other people, everybody is talking to their assistant, and it's, just, I think it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but honestly, not much. We're all in our technology so much. There's only so much difference between all of us looking at our phones while we're walking down the street to all of us talking to, our digital AIs.
Oh yeah.
The one piece of trivia that I did want to bring up was that Samantha Morton was originally the voice of Samantha. And they shot the whole movie with her on set, giving lines to Joaquin and everything. And then it just wasn't working for Spike. And I think he went to her and just said, "I'm so sorry. This just, this isn't working." And so they brought in Scarlett Johansson, and it just clicked. And I don't think it can be understated how crucial her voice acting is in this movie. She is so perfect in this role. One of the things I'm most proud about as a group of people in the Critics' Choice is that year we nominated that acting performance for an acting award with other live action performances. And I think there needs to be more of that, because it is an incredible performance, and it's more so an incredible performance because you never get to see her face.
Yeah.
And that's just absolutely astonishing stuff.
Yeah.
I'll finish by chatting about how much the first time I saw this movie, I hadn't really heard much about the idea of polyamory, the idea of how love is, when you love multiple people, it's not that each take a piece of love, that it's bigger than that. She says something in this that about, the idea that, it's not, I forget the word she uses, but it's when I love somebody else, it doesn't empty anything. It makes that greater. And I've heard people who talk about being polyamorous and the idea of loving multiple people use that kind of language. And I didn't realize that it's the kind of language that Samantha is using in this movie as well. And it's, again, this is a rather trendy thing that people are talking about now, maybe for the last few years, I've talked about, but back in 2013, I don't know that I had heard anybody have a conversation about polyamory. And yet here it is in this movie described pretty well and really interestingly. So I'm really impressed with overall how Spike Jonze explores all of this stuff. The themes are just so consistent and clear, and you just come away wanting to have all these conversations about all the relationships you've had and what they mean, and where it clicks, where it doesn't click. How do you find do you find a surrogate place for that part of you that needs this thing that isn't found here, or like all that stuff is worth talking about and really interesting. So I love this movie.
And that's the other thing about the polyamory description in this is he can't get through his head the ability to give yourself give all of yourself to someone,
right,
and to this other the human brain is generally incapable unless you have this philosophy or whatever. And that just goes to show like how much, not to say evolved better, but just how much more complex she is than he is, because she's telling him the truth. If you didn't know about these 641 other people, you wouldn't give a second thought about how much I love you, but because now you think you've been split into 641 different things.
And how much of that is jealousy? How much of that is just that human like pride thing where it needs to be about me, and like the movie deals with all that stuff, and it's really interesting.
Yeah. All right. On to our super secret double feature.
Be very, very quiet. Secret? What secret?
Our dirty little secret.
I tell you something I've never told anyone.
Which I had a long list on this one. I thought because of the whole evolutionary aspect of this, and the AI is moving on to a different place of some sort or whatever. I was thinking of stuff like X-Men, because the Magneto and his crew are basically trying to like, we need to be the chief people on the earth and everything and whatever. But I also thought of another Scarlett Johansson movie, Under the Skin, that sort of delves into a lot of this, delves into it delves into loneliness and like how she draws lonely people out, and then she discovers things about herself by the end of it. I thought of like, even 2001 came up in my head on this one, but I want to go with a movie that I think fits with this one in such a way that there's some meta to it and everything as well. But because Spike Jonze was married to Sofia Coppola, and Sofia Coppola made Lost in Translation, which was kind of about that relationship, whether she admits it or not. I'm gonna go with Lost in Translation as the super secret double feature here. Not only do you have the Scarlett Johansson connection, but you have the two directors connected. And of course, if you want to go with the Garfield connection, Bill Murray is in this movie.
There you
Chris
go.
Pratt's in the other movie. But there were things in her, there were shots in her that reminded me of Lost in Translation. It felt like Spike Jonze doing a Sofia Coppola movie. The colors in this thing, just that shot of him on the elevator when he's like saying, give me a depressing song or whatever it was, and that first song came up and it was too depressing. It's like, no, maybe not this depressing. But yeah, I think these two movies go well together for a lot of reasons. Lost in Translation is about relationships a lot like the ones that are in this. Bill Murray is in a marriage that has lasted way too long, past its expiration date. Scarlett Johansson is in one that just started and it's already past its expiration date early on in this movie. And then the relationship between Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray itself, is it going to be a romance? Does it work better as a friendship? Does it, it's one of those that seems like if you've seen a movie before, it's easy to say, yes, they need to get together. They need to go to bed together, blah, blah, blah. But it works so much better, especially with the age difference, that it doesn't go that way. So anyway, I thought that was a good connection for that. So
I love that choice, if for no other reason that both movies feel in some way like the directors are working out their relationship with each other. I think their marriage ended around when Lost in Translation came out, if I remember correctly. And then, of course, her was several years after that. But you can kind of feel, at least you can guess that you're kind of feeling them processing some of their own faults, their own complaints, their own, things that they've had in their previous relationships, including their relationship with each other. So yeah, it's interesting.
Definitely.
Cool.
Okay. So what is the homework for next week? I've wanted to start a new series. I won't tell you what that series is just yet. I am going to say, because if I start talking about the series, you might be able to guess which movie right off the bat. And I don't want anybody to guess the movie right off the bat. So I'm going to tell you that the homework for next week is Sin City. I'm not joking. Sin City is next week. I wanted to start a new series of movies that have been recommended to me or have a tremendous reputation that I don't like. I'm telling you right now, I don't like this movie, and I want to go into it with this podcast in mind, so that maybe I will find things in this movie that can you turn me around on this movie on this time. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, can I get turned around on a movie that I don't like? and that is that's my series. I'm hoping I can come up with 10. I don't know if I can come up with 10. I haven't really gone like, deep on all these movies yet. I have at least 4 in mind, but I want to get to 10. So we're going to start it with this one. Sin City, directed by Robert Rodriguez, and then somehow Frank Miller and Quentin Tarantino as well are credited on this movie. So let's do it.
I'm excited for this. I'm super jealous of this concept. I may do this with you. I don't know yet. I may do it 1 week, see how it goes, and because I think I think it's a really interesting idea that'll add some interesting discussion, because it's kind of like a warn amend, where it's like it would usually be a warn for you, and now you're looking at it and going, okay, but what can I recommend about this? Can I see what other people are seeing that I just, missed? So I love this. I may at least join you on this for a week. We'll see how it goes.
I will gladly welcome you into this in this thing. I think the thing with Recotopia is that, we're trying to, tell people about movies that we love, and maybe some movies that you've never heard of and stuff. And we've gone with some really big ones that people definitely have heard of, but I think also it can fit into this category too. Recotopia, things that have been recommended to you or have just a tremendous, like this has an 8.0 on the IMDb, and my jaw dropped when I saw that score. So we're going to do this. We're going to go a deep dive on this. And I hope on each and every one of these movies that we do, I'd get turned around on them and say, I was wrong all of this time. But if I don't feel it, I'm going to tell you, I don't feel it. So
that's right.
We shall be
truthful. Yep.
All right. That's going to do it for this week. Once again, chat, thank you for coming out and making this discussion lively. I see that you're excited about the Sin City thing. I am glad about that. I'm very I'm excited to do this. So but yeah, appreciate you guys coming out, and so yeah, next week's Sin City. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.
See ya. Bye. Be a part of the live show by being a member of the Sin Club at Patreon at patreon.com/cinemasins. Chat with us on the Cinemasins Discord at discord.gg/cinemasins or Cinemasins Twitter at Cinemasins, and email any comments or questions to Recotopia at cinemasins.com. That's RECOTOPIA at cinemasins.com. I'm trying to think of anything at all, and I can't.
Man, I've got some sort of like head bug, and I don't mean like Wrath of Khan.
Right.
Good talk.
Yeah. Those things suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, and this is something we can talk about is, once a movie like Bad Boys Ride or Die comes out, and it excites everybody, and everybody's like, yeah. Does anybody who wrote The Death of the Box Office ever come back to say, guess we were wrong
Retraction.
about that? Because they never do, man. They always want to talk about like all the different factors of why people aren't going to the movies. And then when Bad Boys 4 comes out, and suddenly it's, everybody wants to see it for some reason. Like it's like, oh, I guess there is, like, people still do want to go to movie theaters. Oh, I guess all those things that we were talking about where people aren't going anymore, that just went out the door. So they never do that. I've frequently talked about 2005 and how that was the year of the box office slump, and how they, comparing 2005 to a historic 2004 was always going to be very difficult,
Right.
for that year to match it. And then 2005 also, as I have mentioned many times, was a huge garbage dump of movies. It was a lot of like sequels nobody asked for. It was a lot of remakes. It was a lot of just really, really bad movies.
Mm-hmm.
And a few of them hit, and a few of them were pretty good. Stuff like Batman Begins and things like that. But even Batman Begins, I remember when that came out, Box Office Mojo, back in the day when they actually wrote articles and they weren't like a for pay site or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now Batman Begins came out, and the title was Batman Begins in the Shadows, with I think it was like 50 something $60 million opening or something like that. Like it was still good. It just wasn't what like in 2004 you had Shrek 2, Pirates of the Caribbean 2, what was the other one that came out? Oh, Spider-Man 2 came out. Like, these are huge movies that came out in May of 2004, and we're expecting 2005 to suddenly just be like, well, it's the new year, and whatever movies we come out with should automatically do better than that. So
Yeah.
we're in a slump.
It's interesting. It always bubbles up. And I guess our, like, as movie lovers, movie goers, our job, quote unquote, is to kind of see through the nonsense and see if there are any kind of actual trends, those kind of things. I think it's too early to know because we're coming off the strike, and like everybody said this year was going to be a desert, like literally the week before Bad Boys came out, there were no new wide releases in the summer. A weekend in the summer had no new wide releases.
Right.
So it's hard to know for sure. It does feel like that the dollars and cents of it, especially for families, like if you're looking to go see Inside Out 2, you have to really want to see that movie to take a family of 6 and pay $150 or whatever it ends up being with snacks and popcorn and all that to go see a movie when it's going to be on Disney Plus in 6 weeks. So like and you already pay your $10 a month for that. So it's just, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know that movies are dying. I just think they're changing. I just think the economy of it's going to continue to change over time.
Inside Out 2 being on Disney Plus in 6 weeks is insane.
That's not something anybody has said. I'm just throwing that out there, as it seems like, the Fall Guy was on streaming, or at least VOD, within just a few weeks of release. I actually wouldn't be surprised. I'll take that back. I wouldn't be surprised if Inside Out 2 waits a lot longer to be on Disney Plus, because they have one of the big successes last year was Elemental, which opened around under 30, and everybody was like, oh my goodness, Pixar can't open a movie anymore. And then it ended up making 130 or whatever because it had long legs over the summer. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of their strategy. But I also think with the swap back of like control at Disney, with what's his name coming back in, I think he wants that window wider. So it may be a lot longer before it's on Disney Plus. I pulled up a chart of movie ticket prices adjusted for inflation. So ticket prices in 1970 were a little under $2 per ticket. And that adjusted for inflation is about $12 a ticket. So adjusted for inflation, movie tickets actually haven't gone up that much, which is interesting to me. But now it says the average is right around $11 a ticket. So adjusted for inflation is about $11 a ticket too. So
I guess the thing these days is that your dollar is stretched a little bit more than normal. I guess it's not that. This would be fine if everything else, like the groceries, didn't cost like an extra $1 for every item that you buy, and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm really kind of talking out of my ass on this one because I don't have the data in front of me.
It's all really any of us can do, because even if you have data, even that data can be from 100 people or whatever, and it's so hard to know for sure what's going on. But it does feel to me like economy wise, it's always weird because my observation, I was just out in Vegas. My observation is everybody is throwing money away just fine. Like, like you know what I mean? There are millions of people out there every week just throwing thousands of dollars away. And I know that doesn't mean there's not a economically, there's not a poverty class that doesn't do that. I'm just saying it's, it's probably an example of that disparity and of the idea that like we need to figure out how to be better to each other with, our resources. But yeah, it's wild. And I guess that's just part of being in a capitalistic society is, the haves and the have-nots. And of course, that's part of any society. Haves and have-nots have been part of every single government that has ever been, no matter what they were trying to do. So
I think
it's wild.
I don't know. I guess the issue for me begins at the fact that these movies cost so much, and the studios now think, well, I've got to get all of this money now, or else we're not even gonna break even on this thing.
That's the main
thing. And so even if you were like to have this radical idea, like all the theaters got together and said, we're going to slash our ticket prices and our concession prices for this summer because we're not sure, what's going on or whatever. Even if you did that, the studios would balk, I think, because it's like, but if you get 1 million people on the weekend, they could have paid $12 instead of $6. And you're like, well, you wouldn't have gotten that 1 million people if it wasn't for the slashing of the prices. And I think that's what they sort of think, like, oh, we left money on the table because this many people came out or whatever. But
I mean,
if they were a little bit cost effective, then maybe somebody could have slashed them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I just think there may be a reckoning coming with just like, oh, maybe we don't have to spend $300 million making a movie. Maybe we can make good movies for $20 million, $30 million and make that back. But yeah, it's hard when you're used to, throwing the Avengers out there and making billions of dollars. It's hard to make that shift for sure.
Yeah. It's like, because everybody enjoys hearing about poker.
Which studio would you want to run if you could run a studio right now? Like if you could be the guy in charge making the decisions.
I mean, really, I don't think I think any studio with money is going to be worth running. And then you can, like, I would try to offset my my big movies with some smaller movies that, and try to get some gains through those and whatever. But I mean, with Disney's IP at this point, wouldn't you want to run Disney? I mean, you've got so many things that you could just like take into so many different directions, although that might be their problem, is they're too stretched out.
I think it is their problem. I think they are diminishing all their IPs because they're trying to milk every one of them. But yeah, it's interesting. My first thought is something like A24, lots of goodwill, seem to have a solid idea of making good movies. But then I wonder if the actual answer isn't something like Apple, like, the bankroll that they have to be able to really shift the game a little bit and do some interesting things. I wonder if that's more the answer, but yeah, I do not begrudge them trying to figure it out however they can figure it out, because whatever the box office stuff is doing, there's no doubt we are becoming more at-home entertainment as a society. Like there's no doubt that most of us would rather sit on our couch with our really nice television and watch stuff than have to get in a vehicle and go somewhere. Half the time the projector isn't as good as my TV anyway. Like it's bigger, but it just doesn't look as, crisp or bright or whatever. So, and I've got decent sound at home, not as good as theater sound. That is the one area where, I think theaters overall still have it, but I think they've got to figure out how to get people to want to go out and make a night of it and go on a date and do it.
You're talking about projection and everything. Like, yes, this is very true. Like your 4K TVs especially are just
Mhm.
brighter and like whatever you can set, you can adjust the brightness, whatever you want to do. I remember at my old theater, we had 3 large auditoriums that you put a very high wattage lamp in there to try to get the screen and everything. And I would watch movies in there and I'd be like, "Man, these things are just not bright enough for this big auditorium." And then I would tell the technician that, and they're like, "You could put a bigger one in there, but it's just not going to, you won't work well even
Mhm.
even in these particular projectors, it won't work well." So sometimes they build auditoriums that just aren't equipped to be bright or
Yeah.
and then you have the general like people who don't even uh, run the projection booths right. So you
Yeah.
have a lot of that going on at this point. So
Yep. Yeah, and the technology for, screen televisions is going to get better and better, and it's just, yeah, it's the eventually theaters will have like screens instead of projectors, right? Like, I mean, I can't imagine, as big as they're getting and as good as the technology is getting, that might not be better long term. But
hmm,
what do I know?
it'd be interesting. Yeah.